Hi everyone, I'm Kim. I am an assistant professor of anthropology at Brown University, and I am a researcher, writer, and educator that's broadly interested in the intersections of disability, data, and technology. I'm also the managing editor of Platypus, an interdisciplinary science studies blog. I'm excited about this topic as someone that thinks with and from disability, because I think disability does a lot to push against how we might think of surveillance and spectacle, and I found it a particularly generative entry point. But I'm also really just excited to be in conversation with Remy and with Shin and with V, all of whom I think come from different disciplinary backgrounds, and I found digital studies to be such a great home as a way in which to enter and have these conversations. I think my hot take is that disability complicates the ways we might think about surveillance and visibility, particularly, for instance, how folks in the global north approach surveillance as a question of opting in versus opting out. And I think of this because of the ways that perception and recognition come into the room when disability is there. And I think, for instance, to be a disabled person means not only that you are often perceived in ways that you might not be able to sort of control in the same way that you can say control opting out or control opting in, but that often in being clocked or being measured or similar as disabled leaves a very particular kind of footprint that we then also have the tools, I would argue, to think differently about with and from disability studies. That opting out is kind of, as we know, a skill or a gradient more so than, a yes or a no question. And I think here of Jen Bortesi's really fantastic set of steps on what you might do to work through opting out, and particularly to push back against the surveillance that comes from opting in. And I will confess to not having been able to do all of these steps, but I think starting somewhere for me has felt better than doing nothing at all. So I will say, and I've talked about Platypus a little bit before, but I am the managing editor of an interdisciplinary science and technology studies blog where we think about a range of questions, including ones that are relevant to digital culture. I have very deeply enjoyed working on the blog because it's been a way to think about creating slower forms of community and different entry points for a transnational audience interested in similar questions. So if you're ever thinking about questions that you think are at the intersections of science and technology studies and other topics that you're interested in, we would love to hear from you, especially if you'd want to contribute. My email is editor@castac.org. The other thing that I'm working on together with a couple of fantastic scholars, including Jia Pandya, who's at Yale, and Tanushree Sarkar at the University of Missouri, is a couple of special issues, one for Disability Studies Quarterly and one for Lateral, where we think through the project of a peripheral critique. So what does it mean to do disability studies in, from, about, with, towards the global south? And I, of course, entered this project from an interest in questions relating to data and technology. But what we're really trying to push against here is Western notions of what disability might look like and how that comes about in our everyday lives. And we have really fantastic sets of contributors for both of these special issues. So while I wish these are things we could share links to now, please watch out for them in the next couple of years. The last thing I'll say is I'm working on a book manuscript that looks at how disability is enumerated and identified in India and what this means for the everyday lives of disabled people, what it is like to live with disability identified as a percentage and to inhabit that percentage, or more broadly to be in relation to and with our data. So that is also something that'll be out in the world hopefully a couple of years from now, but I, in this manuscript, think about how measuring disability as a percentage basically is a way to solidify ideas of an ideal body, as well as to solidify ideas of an idealized or singular labor market or kind of job, when it's really the case that these things work out the ways they do in our everyday life. So that's kind of what I'm arguing broadly through the book, and I hope to be able to have more to share from it soon. Thank you all.